Charles and Christopher, I'm so happy that you agreed to be here today for this book reading. I just wanted to let you know that my husband snatched the book when it came first, which he always does. All the Baba books, he gets them first, and he reads quickly. So when he finished Charles's book after, I don't know, maybe a day and a half, if even that, he came out and he said, he was just transformed. He could hardly verbalize what had happened to him. So when it came time to write something for an introduction on the calendar for this event, he wrote it for us. And it says, you probably have heard Charles tell stories about his relationship with Mayor Baba. But here's the whole integrated narrative, told in context. It comes with correspondence between Meherazad and the Meher Center about Charles, Wendy, and John. Sometimes Charles wrote directly to Baba, and sometimes Baba wrote directly back. The book closes with Charles's thoughts on his relationship with Baba. It is uplifting and inspiring. My husband was floating on a cloud after reading it. And he was. And Charles, I'm grateful to you for all you do for us always, and especially now to be in the moment on this Baba Zoom place that we come in contact and bring our hearts to Baba with you. So I'd like to just ask Christopher, I had asked also if he could kind of co-host, because it might be another way of looking at how this book came to be, since you were there, Christopher. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys, and I'll do some stuff in the background or wherever I can fill in. But I'm just so grateful. Thank you for being here, both of you. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, and thank you, Ruthie and Angela, for making this happen. Charles and I were just on the phone with Jordan Raffo yesterday, and we were talking about how really one of the blessings of this pandemic has been to get to see you all so much more than we have just going from to different Sahavises every few years. So this has been just such a great innovation for the Baba world, for us all to be connected like this, and for people who can't travel to be here together. So I asked Charles first to read a couple sections from Kissed by God, something from 1958 and something from 1962. And then I have a few questions for him, and then we'll turn it over to you all to ask questions. But just to return to what Ruthie said about all the stories here being knit together into one continuous narrative, there's something about this book that to me has felt very new, because I've been hearing these stories since Charles and I have been together for the past 32 years, many, many times. But there's something about the way he distilled them into this book that made them feel fresh, and the way that he looks at them in retrospect, really after a lifetime, after 64 years of replaying these stories again and again, and picking out the ones that have most helped shape his relation, or have shaped his relationship with Baba, that I think you see the kind of lifetime of synthesis in the way he shapes the stories here, which I think feels very different than how I've heard them before. So Charles, why don't you start us off with reading whatever section you've chosen for 1958.
Okay, thanks, Christopher. And let me first of all say, Diane and Terry, who yes are always here. I have always wanted to call Diane Dillon, and I don't know why, but it's the spelling, and somehow that I always kind of stop. So I just want to say that, because otherwise she'll think I don't know her name. and I've known her for decades, so I do. But anyway, senior moment. I also want to echo thanks to Ruthie, of course, who has been so wonderful moderating and putting these together for things I've been involved in anyway, and I'm sure many other things. But special thanks to Angela. It's a real vision that maybe was driven by the pandemic, but has actually turned out to be something that I feel Baba was ahead of us on. That is to say, Baba using technology to do his work, to connect his lovers all over the world and all over this country in ways that we had not been able to do, pandemic or no pandemic. With fewer meetings now in different places, and many people not near even a group of people. So there's a sense of being, isolated, and the need for community going up and up, as the youth Sahabas experience has taught us. It's so important. And so what did Baba do? He provided. And so I think, yes, there are limitations with technology, but the wonderful opportunity to be together. I mean, people can join with other Baba lovers every day, thanks to Baba Zoom. I mean, that's extraordinary. And it's nurtured so many people. I hear from people who say that, how it's nurtured their lives and their relationship with Baba. Well, yes, since it is about this little book, and it is a little book, but it comes from my heart, and it was such a joy to write. And so when Christopher asked me more about it, maybe other things will come out about the writing of it that that I can share. But it's a book reading, so I'm going to start with just little excerpts to give you, those of you who have not read the book, a little flavor of kind of what it's like. And I thought I would read one that features Wendy, my sister. We were communicating this morning, and she is very much with me as I was writing this book. And I was careful not to try to focus in this little book on my own experiences, because I didn't want to speak for anyone else. But naturally, since the trio were considered by Baba as Baba's trio, Wendy and John come into it at different places. And I think it's important for them to tell their own story, but naturally some of their experience comes in. And of course, in the correspondence, they're there. So that's why the book is dedicated to Wendy and John as the other two members of the trio, because it's really, even though it's focused on my particular experiences with Baba mostly, it's also our shared experience of Baba. And Wendy's been, I told her the other day, and she couldn't believe I said this, but I told her the other day, I said, you've been really a role model for me. Because, all that she's had to deal with in her life, especially her health, and how she always remains cheerful and always sees Baba's hand in whatever happens, good or bad. And that's become a role model. She laughed because she said most of her life, I was supposed to be the role model, for better or for worse. Not always for better, but now she's kind of my role model. So I just wanted to say that. And so I chose to read, I'm choosing to read from 1958, something where she comes into it a little bit more than in maybe other spots. So here goes. This is connected to a previous story where I'm in the barn with Baba. So as it opens with the connection. I leave the barn somewhat dazed and walk alone to the circle near the lagoon cabin, hoping to catch a glimpse of Baba coming or going. Someone tells me that Baba is soon leaving for my mother's theater to see a film of his 1956 visit to America. I stand in front of the lagoon cabin, planning to hold the door for Baba when he arrives, when he departs. Baba walks slowly from the door of the cabin to the waiting car, supported by Erich and Nariman, another close disciple who accompanied Baba on this trip. Baba sees me holding the door open and smiles. Baba enters the car. Elizabeth is seated at the wheel. Kitty and the Mandali are in the back seat. I close the door and look longingly at Baba through the window. As Elizabeth starts the engine, Baba gestures for her to wait. Then he looks at me and says, "Come with me." I can barely contain my excitement. I open the door and Baba moves over to the middle, giving me room to sit next to him. I get in and feel him close by my side. Some years later, I realize how challenging it must have been for Baba to slide over to the middle and put his feet up on that big hump characteristic of cars in those days. Suffering was universal work. The hip injured in a car accident 2 years prior was especially painful, making it difficult for him to walk. Despite this suffering, Baba gives and gives each moment we are with him, including giving up his seat for a small child. Elizabeth drives us through the center and takes King's Highway towards Mother's Theater a short distance away. During the ride, Kitty says to Baba, "How wonderful it is that my mother and father might get back together." Perhaps she is prompted to say this because Dad, separated from Mother for nearly a year, had come to the center earlier that day to pick up my brother John. Although Dad does not meet Baba, he would later often recount that he saw Baba at a distance. Baba turns so he is facing me. He gestures to Kitty, putting his forefingers together, and then slowly moving them apart like this. Separation. Kitty said, "Oh, but don't the children need a father?" Smiling, Baba looks at me, points to his heart, and says, "I am their father." Baba is carried into the theater. I follow close behind. Entering the doorway, I see Mother and Wendy waiting for him in matching dresses, purple with white dots. Baba has the chair put down and points to Mother and Wendy, clearly delighted at the mother-daughter dresses. He opens his arms wide and Wendy runs to him for a long first embrace. Then Baba plays with her, smiling, squeezing her cheeks. Once inside, Wendy and I find a spot on either side of Baba's feet. Mother signals to us to move away, perhaps worried that we will block Baba's vision or cause a disturbance. Baba gestures, "No, let them stay." I tell myself to remain very still. When the film starts, I try to concentrate on the images of Baba on the screen, but my eyes keep glancing back to Baba sitting behind me. I gaze down at Baba's feet, resisting a longing to reach over and touch them. Suddenly I have a tickle in my throat and feel the urge, the need to cough. Determined not to disturb Baba, I suppress the urge. Just when I think I can no longer hold it in, Baba reaches out, touches me on the shoulder, and with a smile gestures, "Cough, go ahead, cough." Baba misses nothing.
Thank you, Charles. One piece in there that I really find poignant, and it's just very brief, is the reference to your father, Charles Jr., because he really was distant from all this. He was a former Duke football player and a chef, and he had a restaurant in Durham, and he never seemed interested in Baba. But I do recall when Charles and I visited, like I think 1991, he really wanted to tell the story about picking up Charles and seeing Baba. That was clearly imprinted in his memory, Baba underneath the umbrella.
Yes, I think by that time, Dad felt that there was something pretty special about having seen him, and he would never ask or mention anything about Baba for all of our childhood. I mean, we lived separately and we only saw him once or twice a year, but never would mention it and would be very dismissive if it would come up. But I think as he got older and saw how we had grown in our lives, somehow I think he realized that some of what was so special was also his. He had a connection too. And that was his connection. It was in this life, that was his connection was through us, obviously, but in terms of actually physically being connected to Baba, it makes me think of what Elizabeth used to say when people would say, well, I wonder if we knew him before. And she once looked at us and said, well, perhaps we were in the crowd when he passed by as Jesus. Meaning that's all it takes, that's all it takes. Yeah.
And Charles, this might not have been the section you were planning to read from 1962, but it came to you when you were reading about wanting to touch Baba's feet at the theater in 1958. Could you read the part where that actually finally happens?
Oh, all right.
On page 56. Right,
Okay,
since you built up the anticipation about wanting to do it.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Well, this is a very meaningful story to me. At the last morning session with the Westerners, I sit near Baba, dressed in my mustard yellow sport coat, white shirt, and dark tie. I was the only person to dress like this, I must say. Nobody put on a wool sport coat in India, first of all, at, whatever time of year. And secondly, none of the other men, put on a tie. So it was really sort of bizarre. And I didn't notice that nobody else was dressing up. I just thought, well, I'm going to see Baba, I'm going to dress up. And this is what I had, my little ugly mustard yellow sport coat. Anyway, despite the heat, I'm determined to look my best for my farewell embrace. So this was the last morning, you see, so we thought this would be the last time we would see Baba. Over the past 5 days, Baba has given with both hands, more intimacy and love than I could have imagined possible. I look at his feet next to me and suddenly have a longing to reach down and touch them. Each day of the darshan, I have had this longing, but no opportunity presented itself. Baba greets Westerners with an embrace, and it feels to me discourages us from bowing down. Later, I read accounts of a few Westerners prostrating themselves before Baba during the East-West gathering, something I did not notice at the time. Concerned about disturbing Baba, I gaze at his feet and refrain from doing what I long to do. Mid-morning, Baba's brother Baram asks Baba to take the group outside so he can film us with Baba. We follow Baba into the sunshine. He sits in a chair placed there for him, and we quickly surround him, getting as close as possible. I find a spot behind Baba next to Elizabeth. Baram instructs Baba to make gestures. This is a film after all, he tells Baba. Amused, Baba moves his hands and asks for us to do the same. We walk with Baba back into Guru Prasad and take our places after Baba is seated. As I settle in near Baba's feet, I hear Erich call out, "Charles!" At first, I assume Erich is asking for Charles Purdom, an early English disciple who was writing a revised edition of his 1930s biography of Baba. When I look up at Erich, however, he's looking directly at me. I glance at Baba and he too is looking at me. "Charles," Erich says, "Baba wants you to remove his sandals." My heart leaps as I bend down to do as Baba asks. I lift the right foot slowly, taking as much time as I dare, and slide the sandal off. Baba does not lift his leg. He lets me feel the full weight of his foot. I do the same with the left foot, holding it in my hands for a moment after the sandal is removed. What flashes through my mind are the words of John the Baptist in the New Testament. I am not worthy to unfasten the sandals of his feet. After I place the sandals next to his feet, Baba reaches down and strokes my chin as though I have done something great. I look up at him and think, he knows my heart. For the rest of my life, I will return to that moment and remember, Baba knows my heart.
Beautiful. Charles, you may be one of the last people left to have touched Baba's feet.
Well, the last of the Mohegans, yes. In the West, that's probably true. You know, we're a dying breed.
Well, as you were reading that, I was
no.
thinking of something else about Baba's feet from your family, and that's Charles's mother Jane, as you all know, loved Saint Teresa of Avila's writing so much, which she learned about from Baba. But this is her copy of the complete works of Saint Teresa in Spanish they had gotten in Spain. She only kept one picture of Baba inside that cherished book, and what it is a picture of Baba's feet, this cropped. And so it's just an image of Baba's beautiful foot being bathed in milk. So the foot that you got to touch, Charles, and put the sandal on. Charles, was there anything else you wanted to read from the 62 section, or do you want to move on to questions?
No, questions is
Okay.
good.
All right,
I read, it's a short book, so if I read too much, nobody will have anything left to read.
So on the one hand, the book is a portrait of, it's a memoir, it's your childhood experiences with Baba, but it's also a portrait of Baba himself and how Baba works, and in this case with children. But as you picture your readers, what is it that you hope they'll come away knowing about Baba from these stories? You know, what kind of qualities about him did you want to convey?
Well, you know, really speaking, what I picture is that my readers are Baba. Now, what do I mean? I mean that the folks who will read this and recognize Baba, recognize the gesture, the sweetness, the love, recognize this fragrance, which it is. I mean, it's a fragrance. These stories, to me, anything like this with Baba, especially when it has nothing to do with words, it's just between Baba and a child. So really one gets to, at least I feel, just experience the fragrance of Baba. It's not an explanation. I don't try to explain anything. I don't know what I would explain anyway, but I do want to get out of the way enough so that the stories convey his fragrance. Now, who is going to recognize the fragrance? Bob. In each one who experiences the story themselves. And that's the audience that I had in mind, because the recognition of him, which is a gift, will mean that as people are experiencing the story, they're experiencing what I experience. And they are, because Baba has awakened himself, and he's let that particular reader or that heart know who he is. Now, I'm not saying that other people can't read this and get something from it, especially if Baba decides to use this to touch somebody's heart. That's how he is. Some story that I might not even think about being important to somebody, or some photograph or some image, as you know well, might be that which Baba uses to say, yes, it is I. Yeah, it is. Yes, I'm the one that's in your heart. I'm the one you are waiting for, right? So it could be anything. My book, something you tell a person, something, we don't know. And it's not us. It's not even the quality of what we do. It's amazing how Baba touches people through all kinds of things that I would think, oh my gosh, how's that possible? But Baba well enough to know that's what he does. So I'm not saying that doesn't happen or won't happen through these stories, because of course it will happen, because Baba being Baba. But the first audience, the one that I have in my heart and mind as I'm writing and retelling the story, reliving really, it's not retelling, it's reliving, are those who Baba has awakened to him, and they will recognize. So it's like shorthand. I say one little thing about him or his movement, and so many people who love him will say, yes, that's Baba. That couldn't be anyone else. And that's another way of all of us experiencing that he is who he is. Because we just know that's who he is through those recognition moments, right? It's extraordinary, and it's a gift. Now, I have given this book to a few family members and a few friends who don't have a conscious recognition of Baba, but because they are family or a close friend, naturally, I feel like I should give it to them, share with them what I'm doing, and particularly because they always ask, what are you doing? You're retired, so what are you doing? So, here, this is what I'm doing, and I give it to them. But I know, and I'm not disappointed when they say, well, that's very nice, or or they say, oh, you write very clearly, you know, or maybe they don't say anything because what to say? I'm not disappointed. Well, maybe a little bit, you know, everybody wants to be recognized, you know, oh yes, my book, right? But it's not that kind of book. I have written other kinds of books where that would be very disappointing, you know, about religion and public life. And if people just dismissed it or didn't get anything out of it, that would be a little disappointing to one's ego. But this book, it's not disappointing because it's expected that he will either show himself or he will not. You know, and it may be that one of these people, something in there, not today, maybe they will reread a story some years from now and they will say, oh, that's him. You know, that's him. I know him. So that's my reader. In the first place is you. Baba you means Baba in you, because you know the fragrance, right? And it's such a joy, right, to share that because it's a reminder of who he is that people have he's given people, not a lot of people, but people the capacity to recognize him. I think of that phrase in the message Highest of the High, where Baba says, you remember this, he says, I'm not going to get it exact, I'm not for the crowds, you know, admiring me and all that. I am for the scattered few, willing to surrender their all. And then, you know, one can say, oh, but Baba is for everyone. Well, I think the avatar is for everyone. Baba says that. And I can see what he means. The avatar is for everyone. But Meher Baba? No, for the few. For the few. For whatever reason, the timing, the work he has to do, there are a few he allows to see that he is who he is. Christopher, you know, when you went to the center the first time on this same date that I met Baba, except years apart, on May 21st, you had a moment of recognition. Could you just say what that is? Because I often think of that is kind of my paradigm for what I'm talking about.
Yes, it was sitting in the barn and looking at that picture that your mother had brought for the Baba booth at the World's Fair of Baba in 1956, seated on the ground. I think that was during the ceremony of the planting of the tree. In 56 is in one of the films with Elizabeth standing near him, but he's sitting on the ground outside the barn wearing his white sadra. And I was just sitting in front of that picture and had the realization that Baba was the presence that had always been with me that I had never thought to acknowledge. And it wasn't like discovering someone new, it was recognizing someone familiar, like a kind of invisible friend who had always hovered around me, but I just never thought to say, to give that presence a name, and that's Baba. So it was just a feeling of intense, you know, already knowing this person, but then seeing him in the picture.
Yeah.
So Charles, can you talk about, you know, in the book, you end in 2014 in the epilogue. The epilogue ends with our wedding in 2014. And you know, what if Sheriar Press asked you to write an epilogue to the epilogue and talk about, well, you know, you've been around 7 years since your wedding. What's been going on? And is there anything different, new, this development in your interior life with Baba?
Yes. Well, I doubt they're going to ask me to write another one, but if they did, yeah, I mean, the epilogue was an opportunity to step outside the living story and say, more or less, this is what happened. So it goes back to regular use of tense, you know, and because in the stories, you'll notice it's all in the present tense, because that's how I experience the stories. I experience them in the present. I don't experience them as memories, you know, I don't. I just don't. I experience them as every time I relive one, to me, it's now. But the epilogue becomes more like, this is what has happened, or this is what I make of it, so to speak. What I would probably add is Baba's unpredictable way of taking us where he wants us to go. What I mean is, I didn't anticipate that once again, Baba would shatter things that I had built up as being real or what my life was about and so forth. You know, Baba had done that before. And I suppose I should anticipate it because as many of you can attest, it is often how Baba works with us, is he builds up who we see him and experience him to be in our lives. And then he will shatter that. And we have to then rebuild and rethink and anew, afresh. Because the way I would put it is that Baba doesn't want us to stand still with him. He wants us to grow deeper. I know for years, you know, I would be very attached to certain understanding I would have of Baba. And so when he shatters that, it's painful and difficult. These stories, I think, by the way, Baba gave me, he gives each of us what we need in order to be sustained through that shattering that he does. So people have different, everyone can say how Baba sustains that particular person. And it's different. But for me, it was these stories, few moments with him that he allowed me to have written in my consciousness in such a way is that they're always there. Because I think he knew I would need them, right? So the last 7 years, yes, another shattering, right? I mean, it's so becoming physically ill. I'm always in a good health, right? I never thought about being ill, you know? I mean, not really. I mean, never imagined that's how Baba might work in my life, but he did. And that finally pushed me to so-called retire, you know, a career, and where I was used to being, you know, in the media and giving talks and workshops. I still dream about those, you know. there's so much in my consciousness that they keep coming out, and usually it takes the form of, oh, I've lost my notes, or, you know, I'm in the wrong place, or whatever. So I still have these dreams / nightmares about that, and because I did that for so many years, and Baba, I think that's what Baba wanted me to do. He must have been what he wanted me to do, because that's what I did. But these last years, all that was shattered, and with it, a kind of any complacency I might have had about my relationship with Baba. You know, that maybe this is being simplistic, but yes, I can have my relationship with Baba, and I can also do this, I can do that. Well, at some point, Baba, you know, is not going to let one get away with that. That's how I would put it. This is my own experience now. You know, everything's got to go. You know, I mean, I'm not telling you all anything. Everything's got to go. And it sounds even amusing to say it that way, but like a sale at Macy's, everything must go. But but it's true. It's like everything must go. And it's and Baba doesn't met it out all at once, but in different ways, he is constantly reminding us of what Erich used to say he told them, and that is, you go, I come. You go, I come. That's what life with Baba is. You go, I come. Erich said, that's Baba's only yoga. You go, I come. So that's what it's been like. And the only thing I'll say concretely about it, because I don't want to talk about my illness, how much time do you have? I could give you all the details. You don't want to hear. It's what we do when we get old. We talk about our illness. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save that for poor Christopher. But I will say one thing very concrete about it, and that is, what a blessing, and truly a blessing, that Baba gave me the opportunity to, first of all, to write these 2 little books. I mean, without this illness, that would not have happened. And I might have said, well, it might happen someday, and then someday might never have come if it were left to me. Baba had a purpose. And first of all, I don't know his purpose. I'll just say that. But I will say this, that little teeny book on Elizabeth, put out into the world the flavor of her greatness for Baba, of how Baba worked through her wisdom, her wit. So it's a little book with a little few vignettes, but it really, I mean, not because I did it, but because of what she said and did in my presence, which is all the book is. So the day becomes the answer. Baba wanted people to know this is my great disciple, Elizabeth. That's how I feel. And to be inspired by her, to become the kind of disciple that puts Baba first in everything. Yes, Baba dear. That was Elizabeth. Yes, Baba dear, to everything. And then the second little book, which I hesitated about, because then, with Elizabeth, I didn't really write about myself. And that was the best part about it. It was all her. I would come into it because I'd be in the room, but, I had very little to do with it, and certainly nothing to do with her wisdom. I was just the recipient. But this book, on the other hand, I'm in the picture, and it's between Baba and myself. So, and it's very direct between Baba and myself, because not because of me, but because I was first of all 8 years old in the first part, 58, or almost 9, but small, and then 13 on the cusp of manhood, people would say, in the second part. So a very different person. But in both cases, nothing between, because I'm still young enough when I'm 13 for it to be directly Baba and myself. And I didn't expect anything in between. I didn't have questions for Baba. I didn't want to talk to Baba about anything. Really, I never even thought of such a thing. Never, not once did I think of that as being something I'd like to do or want to do, or boy, if I just had 10 minutes with Baba, I would ask him this. That never crossed my mind, because I felt like I was talking to him the whole time. So this book, Baba gave me the opportunity in these last years of my particular situation, where I could really do nothing else. I could barely do that every day, but when I got down to it and started reliving the stories and writing them, I didn't feel sick. I just felt joy. So, that's how Baba is. He gives you what you need in the midst of what you might call suffering or whatever. But also, I feel, putting myself aside for a second, I feel Baba wanted this to happen, this little book, so people can get the fragrance of Baba with a small child or with a young boy. I mean, there are not that many accounts like that. And that's a part of Baba that is very special, his connection to children. And, you know, there are some wonderful things that we can read, like Mani, particularly as a child. And so they're beautiful things. But I mean, I think Baba wanted this because he wanted to make this part of his story. And so that's my answer to the question of this last 7 years is, what a gift, what a great gift. Even if some days I have to remind myself of that, you know, over and over again. But it is, I do feel that way.
And Charles, this will be my last question, but in your writings, there have been certain people who are such spiritual giants in their discipleship and have most shaped how you think about Baba, and Elizabeth and Erish would be at the top of that list, and also Pindu, who makes a brief appearance in this book. So as you think about what you learned from these people, could you talk especially about Pindu? I know you've thought about maybe writing a short little book about him too, but you know, what is it? Many of these people here in this room met him. Some of us didn't get that chance. What is it that people should know about his discipleship that you saw?
Wow, well, gosh, that's such a wonderful thing to think about. Yes, Pindu and I had some deep connection. I don't know what it is or what it was. I just felt as though I understood him and he understood me from the time we met. And so even though, again, we didn't talk that much because he had a speech impediment, as those of you who knew him, and he didn't talk a lot, and he would just be in his chair and he would be listening to the cricket match or reading the newspaper, like that, and feeling useless. You know, he wasn't useless, but he felt, because he wasn't working for Baba, running Meherazad or putting on a program or whatever, he was not doing what he was built to do. He wasn't built to sit and tell stories or whatever. He never read the books about Baba, you know, or he never read God Speaks and so forth and so on. I mean, so, you know, he didn't like to talk about those things. So what to talk about? So, but I did draw him out, and for some reason, connection or whatever it is, I was pretty good at understanding what he was saying, even with his speech impediment. And so there would be days on that little porch where there'd be a few other people. This was now the 70s, so there weren't a lot of people, but there'd be a few other people. And I would interpret for Pindu. He would say something and I would repeat it so that they could understand what he was saying. It was really funny. And he liked it. And he would wait for his interpreter to give them, because, you know, he could, because of the injury that he had when he was in the accident with Baba, apparently. I mean, his tongue was so damaged. So he had a hard time speaking clearly. But once he got started, you know, he would, and what was most, I mean, we're such different people, you know. I mean, I have intellectual interest. I love classical music. I studied in academia. I mean, that kind of life, right? He was the opposite. He had none of that. Could care less about any of that. He didn't have a big library, I'll just say that. He had a zero books library. So we were very different types, but we were the same in the heart. I mean, we just had the same feeling about things. And So he would tell me, you know, and I won't tell everything, but many of you heard him talk about these things too, so I won't have to say, but he, you know, he grew up with his cousin. And as many of you know, he loved him from the start and just, you know, admired and worshiped him, Meherwan. And when Meherwan taught him the prayers for his initiation into the Zoroastrian faith, Pindu would think, oh, it's so sad we missed Zoroaster. We didn't get to see him and all that. But wouldn't it be wonderful if Meherwan were Zoroaster? That's what he used to think. And then Pindu looked at me and said, yes, and he was. And so Baba called him, you know, to be with him from the very earliest days. The very earliest days. And I said to Pindu, I said, well, did you ever ask Baba for anything when you joined him and all that? Did you ever expect anything? Did you ask him for anything? And he said, only one thing. I said, what's that? Only one thing. I asked Baba. I said, Baba, whatever happens, don't kick me out. Never kick me out. And I said, Pindu, Baba kept his promise. Pindu said, yes. Yeah, he did. Because Pindu was there from the start to the finish. And because he lived longer than some of the other Mandali and all that, really speaking, I think he's the only one we could say that about, who was in Baba's physical proximity. Not, you know, sometimes he'd be at Meherazad for a while and all that, but you know what I mean. Generally living with Baba from the very beginning till when Baba dropped the body. Baba never kicked him out. You know, he would send somebody to live over here or to go back to America or this or that, not Pindu. He was right there. And he, and to the end, you know, he was not interested in anything to do with spirituality, you know, explicitly. I mean, he was the living embodiment of the spiritual life, in my view. That's what I would say. He didn't see it that way. He was the worker, that's all. You know, he ran the cinema for Baba at Meherazad. He, you know, he built the tomb. He, you know, he ran programs and all that. But he didn't, you know, that's who he was. He was the worker. He wasn't interested. So that's how he got his name, as many of you know, Pindu, because Baba would have them gather, you know, in the early days for discourses at a certain part of the day. And Baba would say, you know, you have to keep awake. Baba was very particular about that. You never dozed in Baba's presence. You know, you had to keep awake. So poor Pindu, to be obedient to Baba, of course, he didn't want the discourses, you know, he didn't follow, or he wasn't that, you know, whatever. And so it was hard for him to keep awake. And so what he would do to keep awake would be like this. This is how he would keep awake. And so Baba said, pendulum. And that's how he got his name. He became Pindu. So, yeah, and the only, I mean, the most important lesson Pindu tried to convey to me, because he wasn't a teacher, he didn't give instruction. And he liked jokes, he liked funny stories, but he, you know, he wasn't interested in spiritual stories and stuff. So he didn't give instruction or guidance or say, this is the meaning of what we did with Baba back then and all that. He never did that. He might describe things that happened if I asked him a little bit, but never in a way that would give the point to this is, right? He was not that kind of person. I can't even imagine him doing that. But there was one lesson that he kept coming back to in our visits over the years. And it had to do with him retelling, as he would when I would ask him, the story of him building the samadhi or building Baba's tomb. And, oh, can I say one more thing before I say that? Do we have time? One more thing, that before I say that, just to give you the flavor of his working for Baba, he worked very, very hard to please Baba in everything he did. And Baba was a very strong taskmaster. So he showed me the books. He showed me the entries for rice or for barley or for whatever, and how much each thing was that was ordered. There'd be pages and pages and pages. And he showed me and he said, look at this. And next to each one of those entries, so many rupees for this, so many rupees for that. Next to each one of those entries was M.S. Irani. Baba had signed it. And Pindu said, see how he was. See how he was. Every pice means every penny had to be accounted for. So he tried hard to please Baba. It was a very high bar. And so one day I asked Pindu, I said, was there ever a time when you just wanted to leave Baba? Just leave all this? It was a very difficult life. I don't know what prompted me to ask him, but I did. And he said, yeah, one time. I said, what happened? He said, oh, Baba had me cleaning out this room, and maybe it was at Meherazad, something he had to clean it all out and fix it up and get it ready for some program, something. And he worked and he worked and he tried to get it perfect. Surely, he thought, this time Baba will find nothing wrong, nothing missing, nothing undone, right? Like that. So Baba comes in to inspect, looks around, and finds some dust. And Baba says, what's this? And he slaps Pindu. Pindu said to himself, now I know there's no pleasing him. I can never do what he wants me to. I can never please him. So why am I here if I can never fully please him? And he took out the door and started walking down the road to leave forever. And Baba waited till he went down the road a piece, and then he sent 2 men to go get him and bring him back, which they did. They went, they got him, they brought him back. And he came before Baba. And Baba looked at him and slapped him again and said, now get back to work. I love that story. I love the second slap. And if anything summarizes his life with Baba, that would be it. But anyway, so then he built the tomb, and I won't tell that whole story, but Baba said it has to be done in, I've forgotten, 3 weeks or whatever. Baba set an impossible deadline. I mean, humanly impossible to do the structure and finish it and all in the time that Baba gave. Pindu knew this, but he didn't say anything. He just said, yes, Baba. Baba said, can you do it? Yes, Baba. In the time I've given, can you do it? Yes, Baba. No doubt. And so Baba said, all right, do it. And Pindu then started working day and night with workers he had helping him to create the samadhi. Day and night, day and night, day and night, until he just did not eat, did not sleep, exhausted himself. And long story short, he finished it on the appointed day, the appointed time, all done. And Baba arrives at Meherazad, comes up the hill to see it. And Baba is so pleased. Said, "You finished?" "Yes, Baba." Baba brings a garland and garlands Pindu. That was the greatest moment of Pindu's life. Finally, he had pleased him. And not only did he please him, but Baba garlanded him. And so Pindu, when he would finish telling me this story, he would say, remember this, brother. Don't work for Baba. I said, don't work for him unless you can be wholehearted. I'd say, yes, Pindu. No, you must listen. I am telling you, brother, don't work for him. Better not to do it. Don't do it unless you can be wholehearted. And he would tell me that again and again. And that's the greatest lesson I've learned from him. Not that I've lived up to it, but it's what I strive for. That's another book. But still, I'm very touched that you asked me to share about him, because I love him so, I miss him so, and he was a giant. He was a giant. He was a giant.
And a footnote to that story is that the garland that Baba gave to Pindu for completing that work on the Samadhi, Pindu years later gave to Charles. So one of Charles's greatest treasures. Yeah.
Yeah, it's somewhere here, curated by Christopher, who curates everything so that I don't know where they are. I have no idea where it is, but is it here in this closet here? It must be.
No,
and also, huh?
It's not in that closet. No, it's in an archival box. Yeah.
I know, but where do you keep the archival box?
I'll bring it out. How about that while you're answering other people's questions?
And the
but
other
then one
thing
other
is,
thing, and this might embarrass Charles, but I'm just going to tell it anyway, just to put it on record. But you know, Pindu had been with Baba during that whole period where Baba was obsessed with looking for the perfect boy. And you know how that was going on over and over again in India and in Europe, and so many of the Mandali and then Nareen and Elizabeth were, you know, producing all these boys and, you know, saying, Baba, isn't this the one who has the qualities that you had been looking for? And it was never the right one. And so there were all these rejected boys. But Pindu told Charles that that he was convinced that Charles was the boy Baba had always been looking for.
Yeah, well, Pindu loves me, and so he was blind to to the reality. But anyway, I was very sweet, very touched. But you know what? You don't have to be perfect to be the perfect boy. That's the thing with Baba. You can be yourself.
Yeah.
And Baba will make you whole. You know, you can be fragmented, but Baba makes us whole. So in that sense, maybe it has truth to it.
Well, let's give other people a chance to ask some questions. You can put it in the chat or raise your hand. And Ruthie, maybe you can help me with this part.
I will, honey.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
I'm here.
All right.
And, you know, I just want to say thank you so much, Christopher, for accepting this as part of your morning to be with us and Charles and to help us kind of unfold some things about this book. Charles, I wonder if you had to pick a time frame, how long do you think it took to actually write the book?
Well, so, I mean, I began making notes for it before I actually sat down. You know, I began collecting the stories, you know, as kind of a list, because really a prompt is all one needs. You know, I can just give a little prompt about being with Baba at Mother's Theater, for example, and then the whole story is there. So I would begin doing that,
Gotcha.
but I didn't want to write it. So I avoided it for a long time. The Elizabeth book finally broke open the possibility that I could find my voice. And when I started then writing and then these stories or reliving them for purposes of putting them on paper, the breakthrough was when I started doing it in the present tense. Because then I realized that I can write down these stories and live them at the same time. And they would be fresh and new. As Elizabeth would say, you know, each time it's lived, it's new. So that's how it happened. So then it went very quickly. I don't know, some months. It was pretty quick after that. Yeah.
Wonderful.
After I found my voice, didn't take that long.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so glad you did. It was just a revelation that it came in the first person, in the now. It brought it right to my heart. That's for sure.
Okay.
So anybody else that would like to have a question? Oh, there it is.
So this is the
Wow.
garland.
Beautiful.
So it says, Mayor Baba garlanded these flowers to Pindu on 28 August 1938. That was yesterday. Between 3 and 4 p.m. on Meherazad Hill on the occasion of the opening ceremony of the tomb dome. And of course, you know, except for the little string that has color, you know, it's all sort of dried flowers now, but this was his most prized possession, as you can imagine. I don't know, he brought it out one day and said to take it, and I said, no, Pinda, you have to keep that. He says, no. He said, you must have it. So,
Charles, can you hold it up again for all of us, please?
sure.
We didn't put that packing tape on it. It came that way. That is not archival.
Not archival. Christopher hastens to add that this would have been done differently if Mr. Archives here would have done it.
But we did not undo what Pindu had done.
No, and then the note in there we didn't put in there. That was their that was something that Pindu had put in there, right?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Charles.
What does the note say?
Yeah, just what I read to you is what it says. Just Mayor Baba garlanded these flowers to Pindu on 28 August 1938 between 3 and 4 p.m. on Meherazad Hill on the occasion of the opening ceremony of the tomb dome.
Kitty's birthday.
Kitty's
birthday. Yeah.
Kitty's birthday. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciated what you had to share this morning, Charles, in so many ways. But one of the things that you brought up about the shattering, I had heard you speak so many years ago about my Baba and coming to a point where that disintegrates, and then there's a period, and then the longing seems to bring you back to formulating a new Baba. And that this seems to be a cycle that appears in our lives. And it was just so beautiful, that sharing, and you just reminded me of it today. Thank you so much. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free, or comments, or just gratitude, raise your hands. And Charles will be happy to speak. Ah, there's our friend Alan. Jai Baba, Alan.
Morning. Yes.
Morning.
Hi, Charles.
Hi.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, your this book was I could say very much was part of I would say, you could say perhaps saving my life in a moment of deep despair after losing my father recently. And so I must thank you and Bob, of course, uh, for the perfect timing. And I was curious if you could speak more on if there's anything you can add that perhaps you didn't include in the book. Uh, that moment of being with Baba alone in that room. Um, anything you'd like to share or comes up about that time?
Well, that is probably the most significant of stories in my life with Baba. And, you know, it's, as you say, it's there in the book. I talk about being alone. And one fascinating thing about that is that I have words in the book to describe it as best I can, but I've never found the right words. So every time so when I wrote this, the one thing I wrote down that I went back and tried again. And then, no, then I'd try again. I finally settled on whatever it was that I settled on because it was the closest I could come at that moment. Because, and so I settled on that. And I said, this is what I'm going to say. But, you know, if I tell it again, it may come out differently what that means to me, because there's really no way to express it. I mean, sometimes I try to put into words the feeling that you know, my experience in that moment was there's nothing but Baba. There's nothing else. Recently in my life, this has become more real to me. This idea or this notion or experience or thought or conviction, you know, whatever you want to call it, that there's nothing but Baba. And what I've begun to do is just try to practice more and more being aware that there is nowhere Baba is. There's no need to reach Baba. There's no need to try to find Baba because he just is, and he is all there is. And so what isn't Baba, I try to practice letting go. You know, the thoughts that buzz around, like Baba says, mosquitoes, or whatever you want to call the metaphor, and notice and let them go like one does in meditation. But I think the thing that's extraordinary to me about that moment with Baba in 62 is that it gave me a lifelong way to deepen the awareness that there isn't anything else. There just isn't anything else. I mean, I may sit there thinking about Baba, but I'm not, only he is. And yes, we don't experience that fully, but the more we allow ourselves just to bask in his presence, the more real it becomes. And that's what that moment, and then that's the best I can say. I mean, the words are not adequate, but standing there looking at Baba You know, one thing about it, Alan, see, there were no Mandali people there. I'd never seen Baba without Mandali people. You know, I've never, you know, no one to interpret, no one to take care of him like that. Nothing, no one. Baba didn't have any garlands on. There were no people, you know, around to have his darshan. So for me, that was one thing that I mean, it just was just an extraordinary thing. There's Baba, there's nothing. There's nothing. Baba, there's no one, nothing. And that, looking at him, that's when this feeling that there's only Baba came. I mean, and it's more. It was more than that I can say, but it was like, I mean, when there are other people around, or when there's the Mandali interpreting, or when there is darshan, that's one thing, and it's a great thing. But when there's none of that, does Baba is this man sitting there? Is it a person sitting there? What is it? He doesn't need any of that to be Baba. I mean, and I never experienced that before. And now I realize that is the most significant experience, not just in my life then, but in my life now. There's just nothing else. And even if I only taste it, what a great thing to know there's nothing but Baba. Nothing. And you know, Alan, the book arriving when it did, what amazing thing Baba did. I had it in my heart to send you and Adrian this book. We had talked about me writing and all that. But little did I know that when I sent it, that it would arrive at that moment. That Baba, how Baba arranged it all. I was so touched when you told me that.
That really is how Baba works, isn't it? And that Baba gave you such a clear memory of these stories so that then you could communicate them. And you know, Baba knew he was going to touch hearts through those. And that might happen years and years from now when none of us are here anymore. Someone will take this book off the shelf of the library at the center, or a friend will loan it. There's a page that speaks directly to them.
Thank you, Alan. Che Baba, sending so much love your way.
Ruthie, if there's nobody,
So Judy, I showed you the garland.
We end with a quote from Baba.
Well, there's Mihal has her hand up.
Oh, good, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Mihal.
Hi. Well, except for the books, there will be these videos. And every time you come, Charles, Every video is just such a share, such a beauty. And you have given from your heart and your experience with Baba and with Elizabeth and with your family and in your heart. And it's always so touching and so direct. And it's very interesting that when you talked about the book of Elizabeth, you were touched and you were also very flowing. But when you talk about yourself, you are sort of more reserved. So, and that was also very sweet. So yeah, so I don't completely understand what you said about Baba now at the end, because you experienced being with him completely alone in the room, which is a very, very, very special time, because I think I know only of 3 times that Baba was alone with people, one with Eruch, one with Bauji, and now you're telling your time alone with him. But about the taking of Baba, about the thing that he's all the time taking and taking and taking. and I find it really, I'm enjoying it. because he says, what is there out there? Nothing, just come sit with me, that's all. I'll take everything, don't be busy with anyone. I want you to be busy with me. So it's fun. Charles, thank you. It's such a treasure every time you come and every time you share from your heart your memories, and I really enjoy it. And these are going to be gems that people are going to see and look at again and again. So thank you, and I hope you will share more. Thank you. And Christopher, thank you for your support and beautiful way of handling this this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Charles,
That's so beautiful.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say
Sorry.
Dylan has Diane has her hand up.
Do that on
See?
purpose.
Yeah, Dylan's here.
I was actually
I'm
going to
not the
say, hi,
only one.
Dylan here. What's that?
I'm not the only one.
No, you're not.
I get emails all the time, dear Dylan, and then apologies for adding the L. So hi, Charles, Dylan here. I have a kind of I have a question. I'm not sure exactly how to phrase it, but I've heard lately some other stories about children who met Baba alongside of you, specifically 3B, and that one time she had disobeyed Baba's order and had to miss out on time with Baba because she was sick. And she was sick because she hadn't followed Baba's orders. And that by the time she got back, the new kid in town, the new favorite kid in town was Charles Haynes. And so I don't know what it was like for you as a child, if there was an awareness of, vying for his attention with the throngs of adults, let alone the throngs of children, and then maybe to be that perfect boy. I don't know if you could speak to that.
Well, yeah, thank you. Well, that's very sweet. Yes, 3B and I actually connected in 1958. I don't know where Mother was, but somehow or another 3B kind of took me under her wing, and in the circle in front of the lagoon cabin, I just remember hanging out with her. I remember, actually, it's a funny thing, I remember she said something, arguing with her about the Bible, because I was brought up, as you saw if you read the book in the prologue, I was brought up, reading the Bible and so forth. And she said something like, well, the Bible is just, it's, I don't know what word she used, but in other words, it's stories and all that. And I said, no, it's all true. I was an 8-year-old kind of fundamentalist, I guess. I said, no, it's all true. And she said, well, it's telling a story. I mean, she was right, but I mean, I was 8 years old. So, and I just couldn't, and I said, Baba thinks they're all true. It's all true, which of course I had no idea. So I remember my relationship with her, and she was very sweet to me. But I did hear later that when she talked about that time, that she felt displaced in a way because she had been, in her telling, kind of Baba's favorite in the 1956 trip. And you can see from the films, she was very much near Baba all the time. So I understand that. But then she would also say, but then in 62, I had her experience of feeling displaced. Where she got that, I have no idea, because maybe it just seemed symmetrical to her, but I never felt that. I mean, I was completely unaware of what these other kids were doing or how much attention Baba paid to anybody else. Of course, 58, I didn't have a lot of time with Baba because we had to go to school during the day, and we weren't allowed to be there the whole time. So my moments were very precious, and I tried to take advantage of them. And I really wasn't aware of what the other children were doing. Many of whom, Baba didn't give them a deep recognition at that time. So we don't know where they are or, what their journey is. And even my brother didn't have this deep experience of Baba until 62. So it's timing with Baba, as everything is. But anyway, in 62, I never thought, I had one thought: get close, be there early, get close, sit near Baba. And that was it. So there may have been a little tension between Wendy and I about sitting on the last day, morning session, sitting next to Baba, because I felt like Wendy kind of was taking my spot. And, so I remember that little jostle between us. But except for that moment, I never had any sense of competing with adults or children. I mean, to me, Baba was all that was there. I really had no idea where my mother was, or Elizabeth, or, I can't tell you. I mean, I had no awareness of any of these people. It was just Baba. And I had one pointed thing: get as close as possible. That was my goal. But that's a gift, by the way. I don't have that capacity. I'm just going to say that. I mean, I'm not being humble or modest or whatever. It's just true. Nobody has that capacity if he doesn't give it. He gave me the gift of wanting to be close. He gave me the gift of remembering every moment with him. At least I feel that I do. All from Baba, so it was a gift. Definitely a gift.
Well, Charles, there are two more people. I don't want to wear you out, but Mary, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm fine.
All right, good. Oh, good. Okay. Marion?
Oh, yes. Hello, Charles. I'm Marion
Hello,
Lewis.
Marion.
I live in New York City, and I have met you in the past, a long time ago. And this is an expression of gratitude. So I'll try to keep it brief. And that is, I'm facing an issue. I know Baba is urging me, and it's a letter to the mayor of New York City about some problem here. And I go into, oh, who am I? He's not going to read it anyway. One of his says, I go into everything to block that out. And I keep thinking, you said today, don't do it for Baba, do it, with all, give it my all. So I just want to mirror that back, that has helped me today, because I have a deadline to send it out tomorrow on Monday. And I keep with that fear. And I know fear is the opposite of love. And Baba said, those who have it, give it to those who don't have it. And I needed that spark. So it's with that gratitude. I thank you for being there today. I can't express it enough. So I'll close with that. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that, Marion. That touches my heart, and good for you. And I'll just say this, as somebody who's been in the public arena, for a long time in DC with so many people who are in positions of power. Letters count. Believe me, they count. It's a funny thing, you wouldn't think, but precisely because a lot of people don't take the time, it turns out that they actually have more impact than you think, especially if they're meant to have an impact,
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you.
Judy? Robertson, are you?
Yeah, I am now unmuted.
Yes.
Excuse me. Charles, Christopher, so wonderful. Your stories. Baba's fragrance, I think, is wafting across all of America to Israel, and maybe there's somebody from India and Europe and so forth this morning with the sharing. And I'm personally touched with the way that Baba has woven Pindu into this sharing, and the fact that you got to share with us more like I got to see and everybody else did, the garland that that he so graciously gave to you in safekeeping. I'm wondering, clearly what was written there already about Kitty's birthday on the 28th of August in 38, between 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it was presented to Pindu from Baba. I wonder, did you ever hear from Pindu about the story that I had always understood, that the garland came, that Baba bestowed on Pindu and that he held as his most precious item throughout the rest of his life. That was when he completed building the upper story of the Meher Retreat Center, where the Western women Mandali and some of the Easterners ended up living in 38. And that Baba, like pressing him on time and so forth, was because they were all staying in a place called the Irrigation Bungalow in Ahmednagar at the time, and Baba was very anxious that for his work, that be completed at a particular hour, which he did in fact manage to do by staying up day and night, as opposed to the Samadhi building. Did you ever hear
Well,
Pindu speak of that?
I mean, I'm sure both and, but this garland, this Baba garlanding Pindu was for the opening of the tomb shrine, the dome, and completing of that. Now,
Right.
what else he completed in that same time period, I don't remember him talking about. The only thing he talked about to me was completing the Samadhi, and Baba being pleased that he did it in the time allotted. So the garland was for the opening ceremony of the tomb, of the dome. Yeah. Of
Yes.
The
And
dome that we see. Yeah.
Nauroji Dadachanji, Arnavas and Rhoda Mystery's father, was the one that he was an architect and he designed it. But it was Pindu that, as you said, he was in charge of the construction. And so I think there's a story that was passed down that is inaccurate. I believe the ones that came directly from Pindu's mouth are obviously going to be the most accurate, but how precious.
Well, and he also put it in here, I mean, he put it on the note.
Is that Pindu's writing?
No, but Pindu had this typed out and inserted in this. This is not from us.
Right.
So, I mean, because we've never opened this. So when Pindu gave me this, he had, Pindu had had this note placed in it, so it would be exact to what it was for. And he says, opening ceremony of the tomb dome. So that's the actual,
Right.
that's the historical, artifact that we have. Now, it may be at the same time he completed the other things, during that period. So could be both, right? That I don't know.
Uh-huh.
All I know is when he got the garland was when they opened the tomb dome.
Yes, yes, that's a wonderful clarification. And what I hold in my heart so wonderful about it is that it was his pleasing Baba for the one, and he felt only time in his life, that made it so special. That he'd finally pleased Baba totally, not even a finger licking of dust to stand in the way. So thank you again for sharing so deeply his love so that we can all share it together through you. And Christopher, you've been an important part of this all along, and especially today. So thank you both very, very much. Jai Meher Baba.
Well, thank you, Judy. I just want to say I would not have written either of these books without Christopher. I mean, he's the one that encouraged me, said you should do this and take notes, and so I owe a lot to him. And then he read it and made corrections and additions to it as well. Ideas for things that could be better. Yeah.
And you might want to say something about Pindu's birthday being celebrated on September 5th.
Oh, well, so that's an interesting thing. August 5th is on his tomb. And so because of the confusion sometimes with Zoroastrian calendar and fixing birthdays, which happened with Baba's own birthday too, they finally settled on February 25th because they celebrated at different times, prior to that. And Padre Bob Ernst tells me had 2 birthdays because of this confusion. So there's confusion, but Pindu himself celebrated his birthday on September 5th. So even though on the tomb of Pindu, it says August 5th, actually September 5th is the birthday that Pindu recognized. And I know this because he gave me, among other things, he gave me one year a picture of himself, and he wrote on the back, September 5th, whatever the year was, 19, whatever it is. And he also wrote in my journal, he would write little things in my journal to spell out names of people that I was unfamiliar with. And that he was born on September 5th. And so every year I would remember his birthday and send him a card or something. And one year he wrote me a little note thanking me for my birthday card, again, that arrived for his birthday on September 5th. So as far as I knew, his birthday was September 5th. This year I discovered that no, apparently there's another birthday that was recorded and somehow got onto his tomb as August 5th. so he has 2. It's all right, it doesn't matter. He's worth having 2 birthdays.
I keep digging through my pictures trying to find a photo I have of you in Pendu, but I can't find it. So, yeah. Well, Jay has his hand up, Charles. Go ahead, Jay.
Jay, and Gabriella also.
Yeah.
Hey, Charles, thank you for another great talk. And, I feel like there should be another one maybe sometime where you really talk about how Baba has repeatedly crushed your expectations or beliefs or whatever of him or of your life. And just, I'd love to hear those stories. And my favorite video, Baba video, is Eternal Beloved. which I know you had a big part of. And, you know, that image of him just shaking you back and forth, I want to equate that with what you're talking about in terms of he must be just, you know, shaking you back and forth. So can you say a little bit about that, and maybe someday talk, have a full talk on all this that might have gone through your whole life?
The shaking back and forth part.
Yeah.
Jostling you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, thinking about that, it became kind of a metaphor for life with Baba for me. Because noticing that and picturing that in my mind of Baba pushing me away and pulling me towards him like that, and pushing me away again, and you know, kind of shaking and playing like that. I noticed two things that have been important in my life with Baba. One is that when he pushes away, you know, that happens in life with Baba. You know, with me, I just speak for myself, where I feel sometimes distant, or I feel pushed away. And then there are other times when I feel pulled close. And but I've noticed, and thinking about this and the images of Baba pushing and pulling, that each time he pulls me back, it's a little closer. I mean, it ends in an embrace, but each time it's a little closer. And the other thing I notice about it is that with all the pushing and pulling and shaking, Baba never lets go. He holds on. And that's how I feel. So that image, or that metaphor, if you will, of life with Baba has shaped my life, because it's a matter of conviction for me that Baba will never let me go. I mean, I can be distant, I can feel angry with him, I can feel like he's left me, or he's, you know, this or that. And, you know, and there have been times in my life where I felt those things, but the conviction is that he never lets me go. And I do think it's because I have that image in my mind, the physical image of Baba holding on no matter how far he pushes me away. He's holding on to me. And so, yes, that's probably the most important image, because, you know, it's a different thing, Baba says, to have faith in him, which is a good thing, and to have conviction, which is a different thing. Faith is good, but conviction is a deeper form of faith, if you will. Conviction is no matter what Baba does, it doesn't matter, he's Baba. Yeah, he's Baba. Whether I feel him, I don't feel him, this happens, that happens, he's Baba. Faith is honestly more fickle. I have faith in him, but then when it is tested, sometimes it feels like, well, why is he, you know, is he real? Is he that? But one thing Mandali people that I've known taught me is that one wants to nurture conviction. You know, it's a different thing. Those people who stuck with him were not people who had faith in Baba. They were people who had conviction. Whatever he did he break his silence? Did he not break his silence? Did he do this? Did he do that? Doesn't matter. And, you know, we began with this, with me mentioning my sister Wendy, and this is full circle because all that she's had to deal with in her life, with her many things that she's, you know, hearing loss and many things, MS, all these things that she's had to deal with, and other things that come with that. So psychological things come with that. Lots of things come with those things. So all of those things, her conviction is such that it's all for him. There's never any suggestion that why me? Oh, how is this possible? What is Baba doing? Not ever. And at least in my experience of all these years, which is why I consider her a real model for.
Charles, could you finish what you were saying about Wendy? We didn't hear that.
Oh, I was just saying that Wendy, with all her challenges, never has once in my hearing all these years said anything but this is what Baba wants. This is Baba. And she's never said, why me? She's never said, oh, you know, how can I deal with this? Or what is Baba doing? You know, it's always, this is what Baba is doing. This is Baba. And that to me is conviction. You know, it doesn't matter what happens one way or the other. It's Baba. So she has the gift of conviction.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead, Gabriela.
Hey, Baba, Charles, thank you for a lovely talk. I cried immediately on certain readings that you were reading, and just, and then when you said something about recognition, it reminded me that indeed that's it with Baba with me. I recognized him at these moments early on, but that recognition continues in these moments that you gave, for example, that I also felt in my heart. So thank you so much for that. And I just a little question, it's sort of Baba geography, because I grew up in Durham during that time that you said your dad had a restaurant there. What was the name of that restaurant?
Well, it started out as the Saddle Club, and then it became the Saddle and Fox.
Oh yeah, okay. We knew, I don't know if I ever went there, but I definitely knew it. Okay, thanks.
So
just nothing.
it was his parents' restaurant.
Okay.
And he was a contractor. He built a lot of things, schools and such in Durham, but then eventually he took it over from them and ran it. And next door was a stable where he and his mother had horses, and they would have riding lessons and such. Yeah, he was a horseman as well.
Oh, cool. I thank you for sharing that. And I love the little connections, you know.
Yes. So you remember that Saddle and
I
Fox?
do remember that. I don't know that we ever went there, but my parents probably went. I think it was a pretty upscale restaurant, right? We kids didn't get to
Yeah, he liked to think so.
Well, thank you again, Jay Baba.
At 3 a.m, as a young kid, Wendy and I, 3 a.m, you know, having to hang out there while he closed up, it didn't seem that upscale to us. but yeah, for Durham, it was upscale in those days.
Yeah, I'll ask my folks about it. Jay Baba.
As Erich would say, we each have our portion, you know. My father had his portion, or Dad had his portion. As you know, if you've read the prologue, my mother claims he's not really my father, so I don't know what to call him, but let's just call him Dad. Baba gave him his portion, and I'm sure either now or at some point, you know, he'll come much closer and closer to Baba.
Charles and Christopher, I want
The
to
great
again.
blessing.
Oh,
I
sorry.
just want to say the great blessing is, and this is again where we started, so it's a good place to end. The great blessing that some are inspiring, but the Avatar's advent this time is, according to Baba, the greatest in a great cycle of time. So the world is experiencing the Avatar. Everybody's experiencing the Avatar because he's in everyone and it's his role. So Avatar Meher Baba is for everyone, for everyone. Meher Baba, however, not so much. So that's why I am so grateful every single day, as I'm sure many of you feel the same way, that he allows me to experience Meher Baba. Yes, he's Avatar, but as Elizabeth would say, if they found something greater than Avatar tomorrow, he would be that. You know, that's fine. He'd be Avatar, but being Baba, our Baba, is a gift. And presumably the gift that when he comes again, we may walk with him, we may work with him, you know, because we are those souls that's the destiny we are shaped for. Otherwise, he wouldn't have us recognize him now. You know, I mean, he could give the gift of recognition to anyone. And, you know, many of the early disciples thought, why me? You know, look at all these other people, you know, better equipped and this and that. But no, Baba gives it to the one whose destiny it is to be in his circle of people that work for him. So this is a precious time that we can be together and we can share, because we all speak that same language of recognition. And so that's why it's such a joy. It means so much, you know. And that's also why my book will not be a bestseller. There are not enough of you. So, and fortunately, Sheriar doesn't give royalties, so I don't have to worry about that either. Baba would appreciate the humor of writing a book for the few when he is for everyone. But so it's a humorous thing, but what a gift, what a joy. I mean, to have those who recognize him, read it, and experience him through the story. Oh my God, that's unbelievable. And even if it were 5 people, I would still say it's unbelievable, but there's many, many more. So what a great thing. And thank you for giving me this opportunity.
The people in India are just yearning for these books.
Oh, sorry.
I was just from the chat, I was saying people in India are yearning for these books, Charles. Both books about Elizabeth and Kissed by God. So we'll see what Baba does about that so that they can have that in their future.
Ruthie, as we close, just since you said you were looking for pictures of Charles with Pindle, I just pulled out two to show you quickly. This will work.
Let me spotlight you so people can just see you. Oh,
So that's a Meherazad, the Pindu's chair.
Ah, beautiful.
And then here, one of the last pictures when Pindu was in the hospital. Charles, what is this, 1986, 87?
Yeah, whenever it was he died.
Yeah.
And you know, look how happy we are.
He died in 86.
So this was to be 86.
Thanks,
and I tell you, we're so happy. Of course, going to the hospital and knowing this was the end. Yeah, of course, there's a tinge of, oh, I'm going to miss him and all that. But when I walked into that hospital room, and my nephew Mark was with us, and he tells me that he saw this, because he expected it to be very sad and, do his mind. Walk in the room, and Pindu is just,
Oh,
You're
oh,
frozen again.
the internet.
Oh, we can fill in the blank.
Yeah, he was
I
glowing.
don't know. Yeah, I think it's a mystery now.
Oh.
Charles, are you back?
He will be back.
Frozen on a hot day.
Christopher isn't either.
Well, let's see here.
That
Yeah.
was a treat. Thank you. Thank you for putting it up. Angela and Baba
Oh, hold on.
and Ruth
Yeah.
and
Just
Christopher.
wait a second more. I think maybe Charles has actually signed off for a moment.
Here,
So
here.
I
Christopher's
got
here.
lost. I got
Yeah,
lost.
there
And
you are.
Now I'm found. So that's Baba saying, wrap it up. So I was just saying, which is a good place to wrap it up, where Pindu said, I have my passport. When he had his heart problem and all that, but I don't have my visa. And all these people, he would joke about it, but he was very serious. All these people kept bumping in front of him in line. So, Dr. Donkin and Kaka and everybody, they would go and he would be left behind and he would complain to Baba. And he, and sometimes very seriously, why are you leaving me behind? So when the day finally came, when they took him to the Pune hospital and it was clear this was it, it was clear. I don't know. We knew this was it. And he knew this was it. And I walked in that hospital room and I've never seen such joy. I mean, the joy. And just this, he always had a beautiful smile, but the joy, he was so happy. Oh, Baba's taking me. Baba's taking me. And that made me so happy that it was, so that's why that picture is so sweet, because it captures the joy of him rejoining him. And yeah.
You want to show them this?
Oh, this is the, I don't know why Christopher wants me to show you. So this,
Yeah, hold on.
oh, there, okay. This is I gave this to Pindu many years ago because he seemed like a big bear. And people would say when they had hugged Pindu that it's like he's being hugged by a big bear, a big polar bear. So on one trip I took it to give him. I said, Pindu, this reminds me of you. And so he kept it and he put it by his bed. And it's the only thing he had. He didn't have much in his room. He was very sparse. But he kept this little bear by his bed all those years until he died. And then Mondley sent it back to me. So, yeah, there he is. Yes, so this, Christopher says I should end with something from Baba, which is a very good idea. A very good idea. Oh, so I think I may even use this in the book. I do. From The Highest of the High, one of my very favorite quotes. Know you all that if I am the highest of the high, my role demands that I strip you of all your possessions and wants, consume all your desires, and make you desireless rather than satisfy your desires. Sadhus, saints, yogis, and walis can give you what you want, but I take away your wants and free you from attachments and liberate you from the bondage of ignorance. I am the one to take, not the one to give what you want or as you want. Well, thank you everyone again. This has been lovely. And thank you, Ruthie.
Always a pleasure, Charles. Maybe
Can
just a
you
moment
repeat
aside.
that? I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, Charles, the prayer?
It's from the highest of the high,
Okay.
and it's in so it's in that message, sort of halfway in. Know you all that if I am the highest of the high, my role demands that I strip you of all your possessions and wants, consume all your desires, and make you desireless rather than satisfy your desires. Sadhus, saints, yogis, and walis can give you what you want, but I take away your wants and free you from attachments and liberate you from the bondage of ignorance. I am the one to take, not the one to give what you want or as you want. I believe I use this quote at the beginning of the epilogue because it's the second meaning of kissed by God. The first meaning is in the story of being kissed, but then the second meaning is a cartoon I found some years and years ago with the old man on the mountain, the proverbial wise man, on the top of the mountain, right? Or the seeker on top of the mountain. And he's got ragged clothes. He's got a long beard. He's, wizened. He looks like he's emaciated. And he's sitting all by himself on this top of the mountain. And the caption reads, "He was kissed by God." And I always thought that was the best cartoon to summarize life with Baba that there is. So that's the double meaning of why I called the book Kissed by God. He was kissed by God.
Where was that coming from?
Huh? That cartoon, I don't know where it came from. I found it years ago. It might have been a New Yorker cartoon, but anyway, I used to have it. I kept it for years. Now I don't know where it is, but I remember it clearly. And I think Baba would have enjoyed it so much. He would have laughed. He would have thought that was really, yeah. And Baba and Erich would have, Erich would have said, "So true, brother, so true." Anyway, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Charles. Just maybe a moment. Go ahead, Christopher.
Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba. I was going to say, could we all have a moment of silence together?
You can try.
And then we can try. All right. Jai Baba.
Put us on mute.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, everybody.
Thanks
Jai
again.
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you,
Thank you,
Charles.
Charles,
Thank you,
Christopher.
Christopher.
Charles and Christopher.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ruthie. Jai
Thank
Thank you,
Baba.
everyone.
Jai
Thank you,
Ruthie. Jai
Ruthie.
Baba.
Thank you. Thank you.
So much, Charles.
That was
Baba,
great.
everyone.
Yes. Yep. Oh, there goes Charles. So fine. Dylan, what do you think?
Jai Baba. Thank you.
Brilliant. Absolutely fabulous way to start the Sunday for us.
Yeah.
Hi, Alan. Hi, Adrian.
Hey, Baba, everyone. Thank you, Ruthie.
Pleasure, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you,
Jai
Ruthie.
Baba. Thank you.
Hey, Ruthie, show your Baba drawing again.
Oh God. Did you see it? Well, I'm not, I'm just kind of starting.
Oh,
I
wow.
was telling Terry about it. Do not be this humble. This
Oh.
is fabulous.
Yeah, well, it's getting there, It's getting there. I'm going to try some curls.
Ooh.
I'll give you some.
Yeah, there you go.
Can I stop recording?
Yes,
I want
please.
to see it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, honey.